projections going back 30 years were that the Social Security program itself is underpinned by a trust. The projections were that around year 2033 or 34, that the trust itself was due to be depleted. Fast forward to 30 years, and nothing has been done to address that situation. And instead of being 40 years out, we're about 10 years out. So that is something we hear a lot from clients. Understandably, I think there's growing concern.
Okay, Brian, so we have a guest on today. Who are we talking to?
We are talking with Vincent Birardi, a senior wealth advisor at Halbert Hargrove.
Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. And so what are we talking about?
Social Security.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it, yeah. So we're going to have you break it down a little bit because Social Security, it's a common term used in this country. A lot of people obviously know about it and are, facing the decision of what to do. So break down, what are the three core time periods that Social Security needs to be looked at or considered?
Sure. Well, let me just begin as a general refresher what exactly Social Security is. So it is a federal program enacted way back in 1935 during the throes of the Great Depression as a way to provide basically social support. And it does have many features. First and foremost, it really serves as a retirement benefit program, but it does provide disability benefits as well as survivor benefits. But to your question, there's a range of years at the current time between ages 62 and 70 when a participant who's eligible for benefits can claim their benefit. So as you might imagine, the typical considerations are claiming benefits as early as age 62. The midpoint typically is each participant's what's called their full retirement age, FRA, which based on your birth year can either be age 66 or 67. And then there's the latest year by when you can claim benefits, which is age 70. One thing to consider, which is critically important, is that for every year you delay, you lock in an additional 8% on average benefit throughout the remaining years in which you are claiming benefits.
So an 8% increase for each year you delay up until the maximum, which is 70?
Correct. Okay. That's right. And perhaps said another way, for those who are considering claiming benefits as early as age 62 and your full retirement age is 67, you are looking at likely an approximate 30% decrease in your lifetime benefits. So it's critical to take the time and do the proper analysis on when it's appropriate for you to claim your program benefit.
So we're talking about benefits here, obviously. So what are some of the factors that you're evaluating when you decide to take it?
Sure, great question. There are several factors that should be considered, and there are many, and I'll just focus on what I think are the leading factors. First and foremost, you should consider what is your current or expected employment status, right? Ultimately, Social Security benefits are meant to provide additional cash flow to you. If you are, again, focused on the years of claiming benefits between ages 62 and 70, if you're expecting to maintain your employment status, so if you're working full-time and you're expecting to maintain your income level during those years, it stands to reason that you are less likely to need your benefit in the earlier years of that 8-year range. So that's one thing to consider.
Just to break it down, I want to make sure. So if you're employed, maybe it is something to consider to maybe delay it.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, at its core, I mean, the whole impetus or the rationale behind creating Social Security benefit is that it really was intended to be a form of supplemental income or cash flow. So in most situations, hopefully for most people, it can continue to be, again, supplemental. Okay. So again, to your question, if you're still working and earning sufficient income or cash flow to pay your obligations, your expenses, then that should reduce the likelihood of you having to claim a benefit earlier than you need to.
Got
it.
Awesome.
That's the first consideration.
Thanks, Vincent.
Sure. The second would be the availability of other, let's call them retirement assets. So things like 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, annuities, perhaps private pensions. Again, coming back to the core point here is that Social Security really ought to be supplemental. So if you have sufficient assets in some of these other, call them sources, then presumably that would reduce the likelihood or the need of you having to claim your Social Security benefit earlier than you need to. Third would be the realization that once you do claim benefits, they are considered taxable. So just be sensitive to the taxable nature of claiming your benefits.
So maybe let's expand there.
Sure.
Like how do you factor that in? Like, how does that work?
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, when you claim your benefit, that's considered taxable income to you in each year where you're claiming your benefit. So basically what you will receive is basically the sort of after-tax amount. So just being sensitive to one's tax situation, it's important to recognize that, unfortunately, again, when you take your benefits, there is a tax element to it.
So on the tax side of things, the common question is people hear taxes and they wonder, well, which taxes? So is it federal? Is it state? Is it both? How does it sort of work?
It's actually both. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, again, there is a dual element to it.
So if you're in a high tax state, that
correct.
is something you need to consider. Okay.
That's right. Yep. If I may, one other factor to consider on deciding whether or not it's appropriate or when it's appropriate to take your benefit is, again, as I mentioned, other retirement sources. Specifically, let's say if you stand to inherit assets from a family member, perhaps during that time period, that's something to consider. Last and certainly not least is if as a participant, if you have what's called an inherited IRA. That's become increasingly more in focus in recent times because based on the nature of the inherited IRA, if you inherited it from a spouse or from a non-spouse, you will have to take what are called annual RMDs, required minimum distributions. So all of these sources will provide additional means of cash flow that if you have sufficient amounts should, again, reduce the need of claiming your Social Security or perhaps delaying it as much as possible. Coming back to the central point that the longer you delay, the higher your lifetime benefit amount will be.
Are there any factors beyond just the numbers that people need to think about with Social Security?
Yes, excellent question. It has been out there for quite some time that there is growing concern about the overall viability of the Social Security plan itself. I take no satisfaction in saying this, but I can recall sitting in an undergraduate economics class literally 30 years ago and hearing this is back in 1995 for those who can do quick math or not. I remember sitting in the class and our professor warned us of the fact that projections that going back 30 years were that the Social Security program itself is underpinned by a trust that is used to collect contributions. When you're working, you're basically paying taxes along the way. Going back again a full 30 years, the projections were that around year 2033 or 34, that the trust itself was due to be depleted. Fast forward to 30 years, and nothing has been done to address that situation. And instead of being 40 years out, we're about 10 years out.
That's right.
So that is something we hear a lot from clients. Understandably, I think there's growing concern I'd say at a high level that most people are assuming that there's going to be nothing, there will be no benefits available. So for those who are steadily approaching age 62, it stands to reason that you should claim your benefit as soon as possible for fear of there not being any monies to be paid out as benefits in about 9 or so years.
Okay.
Which, if I may, I just want to correct that. That is a bit of a fallacy. There is, again, it's kind of a dual prong to the Social Security program. There is this trust account, right, that workers going back many years have paid into. However, there are current workers that are still paying into the system. So if nothing is done between now and 2034 and that trust account or fund were to be depleted, we still have a healthy number of workers contributing into the Social Security program. It stands as of now, the data I've seen is that if that were to be, that with current contributions, that they would be able to cover about 80% of current or future obligations.
Got it.
So another way to say that is that if nothing is done to address the underlying mechanics of the trust program itself, very likely many, if not all, participants starting in year 2034 will receive some form of reduced benefits.
Got it. So that's the scary part, right?
It's certainly an area of growing concern.
That's
yes.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
With regards to another factor, when people are looking to claim, talk about health. like health span and things like that, or things people, because it's not a one size fits all that everybody should do this one strategy.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
I feel like that's Brian's favorite thing is he just loves to say it depends.
Or
there's other factors.
Yeah, usually she gets me when I say it depends, but it's a reality.
I'm with Team Brian on this. I have to admit, it really is. I mean, unfortunately, with
Brian
a lot,
won,
Kelly on the scoreboard. Yes. I mean, when it comes to many aspects of personal finance, it really comes down to your personal circumstances. Again, as an advisor, what we never want to do is offer boilerplate guidance, because again, there's so many factors that go into each individual's life, not only now but also looking towards the future. But to your question, yeah, I mean, ultimately, personal health, although I mean, to a certain degree, we don't know with absolute certainty how long we're going to live, but we know as a society, due to advances in medicine largely, we are living longer. So you have to consider that when it comes to determining when it's appropriate to take your Social Security benefit. Again, coming back to, not to belabor the point, but if you claim your benefit earlier than perhaps is in your better interest, you're now locked into that lower payout rate. Indefinitely.
Yes.
And it's a one-time decision. You don't have unless the powers that be decide to change this as an option within the program. Once you make that declaration, you have to honor that, or the program will hold you to that for all of your remaining years. So you have to factor that in.
And did I get it right that you mentioned it could be a 30% difference in like the benefit over the span of time?
That's right. Exactly. So,
okay, so
meaning,
it's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. So all things considered, again, coming back to the point, it's a personal decision. But if you're able to at least wait till your full retirement age, 60 to 67, by delaying from age 62, you will lock in at least a 30% higher lifetime benefit.
Okay. And I wanted to go back to something that you said before, because I think that was a good point, that Social Security, in your mind, it should be used as a supplement. Is there a percentage that you're trying to hit, or clients would try to hit, like as far as, their expenses? Is there like a boilerplate number you're looking for? Like what should be the percentage supplement?
That's a great question. Not to come back to Brian's approach here, I have to.
I know it's going to be. It depends.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it really does. It comes back to everything I've said in terms of, things like what do you have other sources of retirement cash flow or income, right? Simple math would be the less you do, the more dependent you will be on Social Security benefits. You also have to compare that against your current and projected expenses, your household expense situation. So ultimately, our job as wealth advisors be able to align that. Ultimately, we never want our clients to outlive their savings and also kind of live their final years in destitution, which is why Social Security as a program was created in the first place. Again, realizing it was created during the throes.
They just didn't expect that people were going to live 40 years in retirement or longer.
Yeah, but that's the reality.
That's right.
I mean, that's right. I mean, that's why the initial benefit age, I think, was 65, and the average life expectancy back then was like late 50s.
That's right.
Now, fast forward to 100 years. I mean, it's a great thing we're living longer, but unfortunately, that's created a lot of strain on the program.
Yeah, and even on public pensions, right? It's like the problem's not just in one area. So,
yes.
Okay. With Social Security, given you've been doing this a long time, you've been advising a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. What are some of the common things that you hear that are really big misconceptions around Social Security, or even if you don't have those,
Sure.
What are the most common things people ask you about it?
Yeah, I would start with, again, we've made the point, so it's worth reiterating. First is I hear this a lot about, the program's going to go broke any day. I should claim at the first chance I get.
Right.
That is a misperception.
Okay.
Second is people not fully being able to quantify what the ranges of benefits are available to them. Unfortunately, not all information sources are accurate, especially online these days. So we always direct people to go to the Social Security website, and the Social Security Administration, which is the department that administers the program, they are under obligation. They will present to everyone an annual statement. And this is well before you actually start claiming benefits. And in that document is a projection of your future benefit amounts based on a range of when you claim. So they'll tell you if you claim at age 62, here's your projected benefit amount, 67, 70. So ultimately you want to ensure that you're using accurate data sources, as opposed to going off of what you may have heard, sort of based on hearsay. Is probably the best way I can say it.
So let's say you're a 30-year-old worker, right? And you get the email every year from the Social Security Administration. What do you do with it? What's a good practice with it?
You look at it, you open it, you verify that the information is accurate in terms of your own personal information. The statement should also...
Well, let's go back to that, actually. So where would they evaluate? Where do they review it? How do you know if it's accurate?
So you should, now in recent times, you'll get an email directly from the Social Security Administration containing a link to the document. So you open that document and it'll provide just basic information in terms of your name, your address. You'd be amazed sometimes basic details, first name, last name, or misspelled, and that's so point one. You want to make sure
number one.
You want to make sure that's accurate. Alongside that, you should find in that statement a summary of the amount you've paid into the system. So as a reminder, as workers here, you've probably all seen on your pay stubs, there's this 4-letter acronym called FICA, F-I-C-A. That represents...
A lot of people hate FICA, and they don't know what it is.
It's not a person. It is the acronym that represents the taxes that we pay into the Social Security program. The taxes that are basically withheld are capped out at roughly $176,000 of earned income each year. So as an example, if you earn in excess of that, the first $176,000 will be taxed. My point
to pay
there
into the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you should see the amount that you paid into the system reflected within that statement. Now, if those numbers that reflected in the statement seem wildly off, that might be something.
Or there's a zero there, and you were actually working.
There you go.
You want to get that fixed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Because obviously, the amount you pay in, down the line will impact the amount of benefit that you are eligible for.
Yeah, we had a big change this year in a sense because there was a provision. The act was the Social Security Fairness Act, and I think that was a pretty big change for, call it 3 million people this year that I don't think was widely broadcast.
No.
And it kind of came under the radar, and it's something I think people should know about, especially if you're covered by a public pension plan. So will you talk to that a little bit?
Sure, that's right. It actually became law January of this year, so about 6 months ago, and Social Security Fairness Act, and it did two things. It repealed what was referred to as the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Two provisions that basically mandated that for folks who were participating, let's call them private pensions. So let's say you're a teacher and you're paying into a workplace pension.
And you weren't paying into Social Security.
Exactly. So, ipso facto, you're not paying into Social Security. You were, for all intents and purposes, disqualified from claiming benefits later in life. So imagine the case where I'm a teacher, I have this private pension, and I'm eligible for survivor benefits or spousal benefits.
Right. You're meaning your spouse worked in the private sector,
correct.
Paid into. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So that disqualification has gone away. So meaning this is, to borrow a phrase, this has now become a windfall for people who formerly were not eligible to claim benefits. Since this was enacted, again, back in January, the Social Security Administration has been contacting people who stand to have an increase in their payment amount. I'd say for anyone who thinks that this applies to them and you've not heard from Social Security Administration, definitely visit the Social Security Administration website and engage with them. But again, if that is something that applies to you, you likely stand to be eligible to claim a higher benefit amount going forward.
Yeah, so let's use a couple examples, because some people work part of their career in the private sector, then they move over into, say, something that a career or a path in the public sector, for just a generic term, where they stop paying into Social Security benefits, but they did pay into Social Security before that. Yep. And then they're now entitled to some sort of public pension or private pension. Yep. Those are the types of people that could potentially aim to benefit from this?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about spousal benefits, because that's a term that sometimes people get confused over on what does that mean exactly? What are spousal benefits for certain people? How should people think about it?
Okay. Good question. They're actually, and sometimes they're confused, but there are spousal benefits and then there's survivor benefits.
Okay.
Let's start with the spousal benefits. Basically, there's several scenarios here. let's take scenario one where I'm married, I have a partner, and she and I have been paying into the system, right?
Both of you.
Yes, along the way. It stands that down the line, if let's say one of us was paying more into the system than in retirement, that one of us stands to claim a higher benefit amount than the other, as the spouse or as the person who basically, as an individual, if I stand to have a lower benefit amount, I can compare my individual benefit amount. I can compare that against the spousal benefit I would receive by being married to a partner who stands to have a higher benefit amount. One thing to keep in mind is that the spousal benefit amount is approximately 50% of what your partner stands to earn as a benefit. Okay. So oftentimes when it comes to deciding when to claim or file into the program, that if you are a spouse, you'll certainly want to consider how much you stand to benefit, what the benefit amount is to you as an individual versus the amount, the benefit amount you would get as a spouse. And clearly, if the spousal benefit is higher than the individual, then you stand to benefit. You'd want to claim as a spouse.
What happens if you get divorced? Do the spousal benefits go away?
I believe they go away after a certain amount of time.
Okay.
I believe it's a 10-year window where after that, then they sort of fade off. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's one. The other category is survivor benefits. Mm-hmm. So recall what I said about spousal benefits being 50%. Survivor benefits are 100%. So meaning that if I'm, married and unfortunately become a widow, I stand to basically fill in, or I stand to claim the full benefit amount of my deceased partner.
So like as an example, correct me if I'm wrong, you have, let's say the higher income earner, the one that paid more into Social Security was getting a $3,000 benefit per month. The other partner was only getting $2,000 a month. The person that was earning the $3,000 dies.
Yes.
That other partner gets to step up to $3,000.
Correct.
I got it. Okay.
And is there anyone that's not eligible to get that survival benefit? Like say your spouse was getting a pension or something like that. Is there any disqualification?
Yeah, fair question. Not to my knowledge. I think as long as you've been married, I think there's a certain number of years where you had to have been married. But if you meet that requirement, then yes, you stand to claim that survivor benefit.
And there's no other fine print on that?
Not as of the time of this taping. No.
Okay.
Check back. No, as of right now, that's the long and short of it. Now, obviously, the program details may change over time, but that's how it's constituted at the moment.
Okay.
How do people go? What are the options or the paths that people have to deal with the Social Security Administration? When they're trying to evaluate benefits and decide.
Sure. I take that as...
what are you seeing clients do? Like, how do they engage? Like, is it online? Is it in person? Is it both?
It's a mix of the two. From what we've gleaned from news headlines and clients, I think the availability, the option of meeting with someone in person seems to be dissipating. So there has been a transition to more online engagement. So I think, first and foremost, I would say the first method of communicating or engaging would be online. So visiting and to their credit, there's no pun intended, there's a wealth of information on the Social Security website itself. So you can do a lot of hunting and pecking and just getting your arms around the basic details of how the program works.
Got it.
This sounds like a pretty complicated decision, though. Like, is there other resources out there if you can't get in front of a Social Security person? Like, where else can you kind of evaluate your different options?
Sure. Seems apropos to say that you might want to engage with a certified financial planner, someone who has a lot of experience helping people make this decision. Alongside that, there are an increasing number of sort of data platforms that are out there that if you provide a certain number of inputs in terms of your age and whatnot, other factors, they will basically spit out several projections in terms of what your lifetime benefit amount could be. A word of caution there, as we've come back to, and I'm saying this purposefully, you want to avoid taking the output of some program and assuming that is the best course of action for you. Again, remember what we've discussed in terms of other factors that should be considered. So meaning that we know the way the program works, but the math is simple. If you can defer till age 70, you will have the highest lifetime benefit. However, again, in your personal set of circumstances, if you don't have enough cash flow or income to get you to age 70, that is not the appropriate choice. So I think perhaps working with a certified financial planner, someone who has a lot of experience, can help you navigate these decisions.
Talk a little bit about a person who claims at 3,000. Should they just assume that if they claim at 70 and that their benefit was $3,000, we're just using generic numbers here,
Sure.
that they'll get just only $3,000 a month for the next, say, 30 or whatever their lifespan might be, or does it change?
Good question, and it is the latter. Every year,
Repeat what the latter is. Let's
Sure.
make sure everyone got that.
Yeah, one of the key features of Social Security, and this is a good thing, is that the benefit amounts are indexed to inflation. There is a characteristic of what's referred to as a COLA, not a soda.
Not like
Okay.
Coca-Cola?
This is not sponsored by
Let's
Coke or
define
Pepsi.
that.
Yeah.
She's
Let's
going to
define
come
that.
at you.
Let's go.
She hates acronyms.
No, COLA stands for cost of living adjustment.
I got it.
So based on, and that's pegged to a measure of inflation that the Social Security Administration uses. So to answer your question, the actual nominal, the actual dollar amount of your benefit should over time and will increase in dollar amount. Now the real benefit is neutral because again, the dollar amount that increases really is there to offset general inflation in the economy. And I've brought with me some stats here.
Oh, go for it.
So, and we've seen a bit of a
She's
wild
going to call
swing.
you on stats, though.
That's okay.
Stats are good. I'm good.
Okay. If we look back, I think we've all seen a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to inflation rates. 2022 is when inflation started to bubble. The annual benefits were increased by 5.9%. Significant. 2023, they went up even more, 8.7%. And it's tempered off since then. Last year, up another 3.2%, and this year, up another 2.5%. But ultimately, again, to answer your question, the dollar amount will increase over time.
And where did you get all your stats from?
I think it actually came to the Social Security website itself. So
Okay.
these have been verified.
Right. And just as a reminder, in 2022, we did see peak inflation, and that's just looking back over the last 12 months, go above 9%.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to be perfectly timed with how, call it CPI or the Consumer Price Index works, but it will try to keep up with that.
Yeah, and if I may, to the administration's benefit, Social Security Administration's, to their benefit, I think they obviously, again, coming back to the central premise of the program, this is meant to provide financial support for people in their latter years. Again, we don't want, as a society, we don't want people, perishing in destitution. So it's nice that they're cognizant enough to adjust that dollar amount so that people aren't losing purchasing power through no fault of their own. There is a general amount of inflation built into our economy. So as benefit holders, we should not be penalized for that.
So we talked a lot about Social Security today, and obviously we could talk for hours, but our producer's telling us to cut. We're out of time. If people have more questions about Social Security, like where should they go? Who should they ask?
Sure. Two sources of information. Again, first and foremost, the Social Security Administration website, excellent source of information. Second, I would recommend perhaps they visit our website, Halbert Hargrove, and perhaps be open to a conversation with one of our certified financial planners, and happy to engage and see what makes sense for them.
Yeah, and that's halberthargrove.com. You can also find Vincent on LinkedIn or on our website if you want to ask him a specific question. And obviously, Brian and I are available. Definitely follow us on YouTube. We have lots of content, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.